Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery. It's a pleasure to visit with you. It is 7:59 a.m. Central on Thursday, August 19th, 2021. We get together with our distribution partners most weekdays at this time, talk about tactics, techniques, strategies, and so forth. I did send out the agenda, which is displayed on the left, and then our content is on the right. So let's go ahead and dig in. From the agenda, we have funding approvals and actually funding on a daily basis, but I know several of you really clamor for specifics. And so these are a handful of clients that already this morning, as of August 19th, have already been approved for first tranche financing. And again, that's that first round of funding that we try to get clients within their first week of being in the program. Doesn't always work that way, but that's the plan and that's the goal we shoot for. The amount that a client gets for first tranche financing will vary based upon their mitigating circumstances, but we always want to try to get at least $2,500, because $2,500 is enough to cover the refundable deposit, and that puts $1,250 in your pocket right away. Obviously, the more cash funding that a client can get, the better, because not only does it cover their refundable deposit, it also gives them some working capital. So Edward B, 10,000, and this is cash funding, not a line of credit or extension of credit, true cash funding. Simone, 13.5, Gregory, 27, and there's others. It's not meant to be an all exhaustive list, just simply trying to clarify that the first tranche funding model, what we call FTF, is working really well now, and we can get everyone funding. There's different sources of capital based on individuals' different mitigating circumstances. So there's different amounts. It could be term, it could be revolving, and so forth. But the bottom line is you can enroll a client as a white label partner and feel 100% confident that we can get them a financing approval for at least $2,500. Also, I failed the last day or two to give you an update. It wasn't a purposeful omission, but I checked this morning and our top referral partner is at 278 conversions so far for the month of August. So that's through the 18th, so a little more than halfway. We'll see where everyone ends up by the end of the month. But these are actual enrollments. These aren't leads or prospects. These are people that have enrolled, they're contracted, they're enrolled, I don't know how else to say it, in access to capital. Not here to say that you'll, if you follow these strategies, that you'll generate 200, 300, 400 new clients a month, but certainly one a day is more than achievable. And that's really what we'd like each of you to do is engage, and let's help at least one small business owner per day. Now, if we're going to help small business owners, we need to have leads, right? Because leads come before conversions. There's really two primary paths, I believe, of generating leads. There's variances, but let's just put it into two buckets for simplicity, for my simple mind. So there's online marketing, and that's where the 278 came from. Doing online promotion and driving into a landing page. It's not personal, it's not educational, there's no conversation occurring, it's online promotion, driving into a landing page. Online promotion, driving into a landing page. So that's one of the two paths, and that may be a good fit for you, it may not be. The other is really the primary focus today, which is educating. Getting in front of people, either literally or figuratively, via Zoom or online education, but teaching and leading through education. So that's what we're going to focus on today, is helping you understand how that path works and to see if you might want to engage in it, because you can certainly generate even bigger numbers through education if you're willing to do it. I think sometimes, and it's unfortunate, I think our world is increasingly becoming a world of haves and have-nots. And that's unfortunate. But the good thing is, even someone that's not doing that well economically, it's within their control. And that's what we're going to talk about today. This is something that anyone could do, even if they don't want to teach. And I'll explain that in a moment, to be able to become a have, to be able to enjoy the better things in life, to be able to have the income necessary to pay bills, to save, to reach your potential. Again, there's so many examples of haves and have-nots. I'll give you an example of one, and maybe it's immaterial or irrelevant, but when I bought a new vehicle recently, went into the dealership and they took delivery and they said, okay, Mr. Montgomery, I want to show you the VIP room. I'm like, VIP room? And it's the room in the dealership that has no sign on the door. And that's where the VIPs sit. So it's a VIP lounge, which is with all the little snacks and coffees and teas and free soft drinks and free alcohol you could want. It's the VIP lounge. It's where the haves go at the Mercedes dealership. The regular people sit out front. They don't even know that the haves are in that other room with all the niceties. You and I hold the ticket to be able to help anyone be a have based upon being able to generate an adult income. And that's what we're going to go through today, how to generate an adult income as a financial literacy educator. Not selling you anything. There's no cost to be an educator. So let's go through the packet that we just put together and released this morning, send it out to all of you. So you should have had it. And it's a concise 3-part packet. The new job description, which we're going to go through, or position description, the outline of the workshop that we teach, which we've gone through before. There's not a change to this. It's just putting it all together. And then lastly, the sample flyer. There was some confusion on the sample flyer, and that's my fault. This is a real flyer that we used a couple years ago when I worked for the SBA. And it was how we promoted this content, right? So it's relevant because it's an example of how it can be promoted. But when I sent it out, I didn't anticipate people would call the number and try to register for events that were held years ago. And that's my fault, not yours. So this is an example of how we can go out and create collaborative relationships and promote this curriculum so you're teaching it and helping people. So 3 parts to the packet. Let's go back to the first page, which is the new page. It's new information, was just released this morning. So let's go through, because I've had so many of you reach out and say, okay, I'm interested in teaching, but tell me more. And we've had a couple YouTube videos, prior trainings that we recorded and converted into YouTubes, but I think this was what was missing. So let's go through what it means to be a financial literacy educator. And again, there's no cost. I'm not trying to sell you anything. So financial literacy educator. The category is economic development, and we'll defend that and explain that in a minute. Where are we looking for educators? Across the country. We're specifically looking for 1 educator per county, per state. And then if they want to bring in others that work underneath their umbrella, that's fine. I think some of our top educators are not going to educate at all. They're just managing the area and having other people go out and teach. And so that I made a reference early in this discussion that you could be one of our financial literacy educators, but frankly, never go teach a person. You're managing it. So just keep that in mind. 3 bullets that gives an overview of what it means. Well, we are seeking a financial literacy educator for each county of each state nationally, like I mentioned, so it's exclusive. What happens is our educators are paid to teach an award-winning curriculum, which is down here, right? The outline, and we'll go through all of it together when we do the train the trainer with you. But we're going to teach that curriculum, which can be taught in person or online or combination of the 2. And then we turn around and help the attendees implement what they've learned. I was talking to a gentleman yesterday that's going to be running, I believe, a large county in South Florida, and he absolutely loved it. He's been out teaching here and there somewhat, but he didn't really have the ability to implement after he taught. He wasn't able to monetize beyond the class, and we certainly can do that together, and we'll talk about that here in a moment. And then we have the Train the Trainer training, which used to be only in person, but we announced yesterday that it's now available online and it doesn't take long to complete. Because even though this is under the white label umbrella, so if you're a financial literacy educator, you're going out representing your entity, not ours. It's under the white label partner model. However, we need to have some reasonable certainty that we're teaching the same material in a similar fashion. Now, I didn't really plan to share with you, but part of our plan is over the next 30 days to get our educators in place, at least in major cities across the country, and then apply for some grant funding from the SBA to be able to fund this. But first, we got to get the team in place before we can go apply for SBA funding. So regardless of that, what's the position type? It can be part-time or full-time, complete flexibility. It's obviously an independent contractor. There's no prior experience necessary. I know some of us came from being a college professor or teaching in school or just education in general, but that is not a requirement. We will be building out leadership roles. So again, we're going to have one financial literacy educator per county, and then we're going to follow the SBA model, by the way, and have state directors. We'll choose a state director from one of the educators in the state that has proven excellence in their role. There's multiple income streams because the income falls under the white label partner plus being paid to teach this. And we'll go through those down here on number 4. And again, there's no cost. We're not trying to sell you, oh, pay and become a financial literacy educator. There's no cost to be a white label partner, and there's no cost. And so let's explain. You can be a white label partner and not go out and be an educator, not go out and teach. That's optional. It's up to you. It's one of the paths that is a way to generate the leads to fill your sales funnel and help people, but you don't have to do that. Okay, so timeline, we're immediately looking and building our team of educators, and it was posted officially today. How to apply, send in resume to the email or letter of interest to the email stated there. Who should apply? Anyone that's interested in helping others. Okay, now let's get down to the meat of it. So I think this paragraph that our advisory team put together late yesterday does a really nice job, if I can highlight it right, of describing what we're trying to accomplish. It says, we are building a national team of financial literacy educators to facilitate the education of minorities and underserved populations about crucial financial literacy topics impacting access to capital for startup and early stage small businesses. I think they did a really good job in one concise statement of why we're trying to do this. And I think this is what was missing from some of you, is trying to put it in perspective. Well, why are we rolling out this educator role? Why do we want someone in each county to facilitate these workshops? And again, the content that we're teaching is the business credit and financing training workshop. Typically, we refer to it as the access to capital workshop because it resonates well. And that's what you see the branding here. But again, as a white label, you can brand it as you want. All right, so let's go back. So that's the background. Anyone have feedback, comments on that statement? Do you think it's as strong as I do of just concisely stating what it is that we're doing? And you could wordsmith this around. So let's say that you want to help us teach and you're helping reach out to hosts, because if you remember, how we typically set these workshops up is not trying to get the butts in the seats ourselves, but we work with hosts. And this is essentially the statement. I am a financial literacy educator working on a national initiative to facilitate the education of minorities and underserved populations about crucial financial literacy topics impacting access to capital for startup and early stage small businesses. I would like to set up a workshop with you for your sphere of influence. And sphere of influence would be congregation for a church, members for a chamber, so forth. And I'll get into that here on key duties. So what is it that a financial literacy educator actually does? They're going to typically approach, so you don't have to, we put the word typically in to say, well, it's not a requirement. Obviously, what we want to do is go educate, and we want to educate using this curriculum. But what we found the best way to educate is to not go try to find hundreds and hundreds of people to come to the workshop, because that can take a lot of work. Instead, what we can do is interface with hosts, like spheres, people that have a sphere of influence, like churches, chambers, even libraries and others, banks. And then they often will provide the room, and they'll often promote it. So again, this is an old flyer. It's a real flyer, but it's an old flyer. I approached Work Hub, which is no longer in business because of the pandemic, but it was a co-working space, very large, 42,000 square feet, so very significant in size, and made this pitch, and then started teaching the curriculum on a monthly basis. Okay, so back up to where we're at. So we approach hosts, and we want to, usually we call it access to capital, and then we use the material in the business credit and financing guide and the outlines here. And when you go through Train the Trainer, we're going to teach you about all this, so we're all spreading the same message. Now, that doesn't prevent you from putting your own spin on it and adding your own examples and so forth, but we have to have some standardization as we're going after some large grants, which will generate more revenue for you. If you're one of our educators, we need to be able to say, yes, we can provide the same curriculum in markets all across the country. So we all will be using the same curriculum, but certainly you can elaborate on it and put your own spin on it. So it's not just reading a script. Now, so this is step one. We need to set up these workshops, and we set up the workshops typically by working with hosts. But what's really powerful about this, and this is what makes it maybe different in the marketplace, is we don't stop with that. Then we turn around and help people implement what they've learned. So let's read this. So after the workshop, we help participants complete an online funding proposal. You'll learn about that and how to use that when you come to Train the Trainer. It's not available to the public. It's available to our educators who are white label partners who have completed the Train the Trainer certification. But the participants complete that to see if they qualify for a minimum of $100,000 to start or grow a business through a grant subsidized program that does not have any minimum credit scores nor time in business to qualify. This will take 2 to 3 minutes per participant. I remember I flew out to Atlanta and I taught this curriculum at a trade association's national conference. And so I was one of the guest speakers. And then afterwards, I was flooded. I actually had a couple helpers, and we each had laptops set up. And all these, I don't exaggerate, a bunch of the attendees came flooding up, and there was a line because they wanted to see if they qualify. So I'm a big believer that if you teach people and help them know what they need to know, then it becomes very easy then to help them implement that new knowledge. So that is what we'll teach you how to do in the Train the Trainer. And again, we have the little caveat there that there's different sources of capital with different underwriting criteria. But what we can certainly do, even someone that's in inadequate shape in terms of credit and income and or time in business, we can at least get a $20,000 credit builder loan. Okay, what are the requirements to be a financial literacy educator? They must be a white label partner. And I think pretty much all of you that's on the training already are white label partners, and there's no cost to be a white label partner. If you're not, it's free and easy. You can do that right here. And then we need to get you to go through the Train the Trainer training, which previously was done in person. We have the last in-person Train the Trainer coming up on Friday, August 27th. And then after that, it'll be exclusively taught online based upon the request of many of you. Then lastly, and I'll open this up for questions and comments, what's the compensation? How do you get paid? Because I think we're all motivated to help people and make a difference, but this needs to help you economically benefit as well, and it certainly will. So let's go through the comp model. Now, as a white label partner, which this falls underneath the umbrella, you select your own fee structure. So I can't come make some earning estimates of what you'll make, because you control how much you make, you set the prices. So I'll show you normal pricing and how much you would make off of normal pricing, but you could charge more or charge less. So when we teach the workshop, it can be done as just a 1-hour session. And when we did it here in the evenings, we just had to really do a high level overview, because you can't go very deep in an hour, but it certainly can be taught in a couple-hour block. It could be taught in a 4-hour block, a half day. It could be taught in a full person, a full day. The bottom line is it's up to you. The normal fee is $99 per attendee. And then, of course, you multiply that by how many people attend the class, and 20 is a pretty typical number. So again, I don't know how much you're going to make teaching the workshops, but if you charge the normal amount and you have the normal class size, then it's around $2,000, obviously doing the math. So that's number one. Number two is that after we have taught them, we want to help them implement what they've learned, and that's what we talked about up here. And so we have an online funding proposal that we drive them in. So it's a little bit of a different pivoting method, but it's very slick, very efficient, and you'll recognize almost 100% conversion, right? And so then you're paid off of the refundable deposits, just like white label partners normally are. And the normal refundable deposit is $2,500, although you have the right to charge more or charge less. Third compensation stream would be the performance fee from the capital raise. And so you're making money as people are getting their first tranche of financing, as well as the rest of their financing. And we know that we'll help each of them raise at least $100,000 as long as they're actively engaged and participating. And then if you are a licensed insurance agent, some of you are, some of you aren't, it's not a requirement. Then if you are, though, you'll probably write the key person policy, and that depends upon suitability of the client and how you write, it's typically another $500 to $1,000. So in summary, there's 4 compensation streams, and you're really controlling how much you make off of each one, because you're setting the pricing, if you will. But let's review and then dig into your questions. So what did we cover today? A couple funding approvals, just to show you the first tranche financing model that we launched or relaunched early August is working well. It's getting funding, and it's getting funding quickly, and we can guarantee funding for all clients. Also, we talked about the top referral partner, almost pushing 300 conversions so far this month. We'll see where he ends up. I know that he's really revving up this week. He took a little bit of pause. I think he was out of town over the weekend, but I wouldn't be surprised if he hits 400 by the end of the month, maybe more. And I know his goal is 500 for himself, but we'll see. And then we've been talking about how you can get involved in teaching financial literacy, which addresses a couple items. It generates an adult income for you, which is nice, but also it is a great way to fill your pipeline. So you're not worried about, where do I get leads, or do I need to buy leads? You create leads organically through education. Okay, so with that, we're going to start digging into your questions, comments, concerns. If you can type them into the Q&A, it's kind of like a chat box at Zoom, and we'll see what everyone's thinking. So yes, as far as editing the materials, once you've gone through the train the trainer, then obviously we're going to help you and support you in doing that, and you'll be authorized to go teach this curriculum. Again, we need a controlled rollout, so we're going to have one specific person per county, and we're at the point already we're starting to get multiple people contact us from the same counties. I think we had 2 people yesterday contact us about San Diego County, California. I think 2 people contacted us yesterday also about Harris County, Texas. And so, I mean, it's first come, first serve. So we need to figure out who the leaders are going to be in each county, and then take you through the train the trainer, which can be done in person or online now. Last in-person class is August 27th, and then we can implement the educational campaign. Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Zahn says he didn't receive the packet. It went out. It most likely got caught in your filter, email filter, because it had a link. You know, it had the link to today's Zoom, and then it also had the attachment. So there's a good chance that if you didn't see this, it probably went into one of your filters. All right, let's see. Steve asked about SBA funding. What is that actually for? Well, the excuse me, Steve, the United States Small Business Administration is a government subsidized lending portal that typically does not issue loans, but guarantees loans for small businesses. There's different types of SBA loans that can be used for different purposes, but what I'd recommend, Steve, is maybe join us for the training, because we're going to go through and teach about SBA loans, and it sounds like you're kind of ripe to learn more, which is great. That is agenda item number 7 here in Roman numeral. Okay, so let's move on down the list. Samuel says, really strong, direct to the point. Thank you, sir. And he was referring back to when we were talking about this introductory paragraph a few minutes ago. Mark says he didn't receive the email either. Well, if you're a white label partner, you should have received it this morning. If you didn't see it, it probably went into a filter. If you're not a white label partner, you need to become one. And if you are a white label partner and you want to start teaching, then you need to contact us so we can get you plugged in and get you certified. So by going through the train the trainer, you become certified, which means you're eligible. We really didn't want to set that up. It sounds kind of bureaucratic, but again, as we're preparing the grant to submit to get funding from preferably the federal government to pay all of us to go out and do this, in addition, it'd be a whole different revenue stream than what we're talking about here. I guess it would substitute this. So instead of the attendees paying, we would get grant money to pay us to teach it. But separate from that, we need to set up certain criteria for who's presenting. So you would need to be a white label partner, free and easy. You need to get certified by going through the train the trainer training, and you can do that either, Mark, in person. Last in person is Friday, August 27th, or you can do it online. All you got to do is just email us and let us know. Okay, thank you, Mark. Misty asked a good question. Misty and I had a great conversation this morning before. So we need a designated person per county. And so I know some of you are very interested in running multiple counties. Really what we need to do is we need to start with one county, demonstrate competency, start teaching, and then we'll figure out some way to expand to other counties. But it's a big chore, right? Like Misty, I believe, is in Tarrant County, Texas, where Arlington is, and Fort Worth. And there's so many communities in populous counties. You could literally be teaching a workshop every day. I'm not saying, Misty, that you need to do that, but to really make it accessible, if you counted how many churches, how many chambers, how many libraries, just those 3 are in Tarrant County, my goodness, you could be teaching all the time. So while we get the question about, can I run multiple counties? I mean, we can discuss that, but I think we end up shortchanging an implementation because there's only so much time. But the design is to have one person as an educator per county. And Misty, if you want Tarrant County, it's yours. We just need to get you plugged in here. All right, so, okay, so I see what Steve's asking now. I misunderstood his question before. Our plan is to build out educators across the country, one per county per state. And then we're going to go after grant funding to fund the classes. So in that circumstance, it would circumsede number one. So instead of the attendees paying, we would get grant money to pay you to teach. So I say that only to let you know the direction that we're going and why it's important to get our footprint built. Don't get distracted by that. I'm just letting you know the larger vision. So for example, I'll digress for a moment. So I used to be an employee of this college, and my salary, which was not much, it was I think $52,000 a year, not much at all, was funded by a grant by the SBA. So every month I had to sign a little form, and then that money came from the SBA into the college's bucket, and then I was on their payroll. So they provided me benefits and all of that. What's the point? Well, the SBA has money to fund initiatives that help starting and growing businesses. So what we're doing together is building a national footprint to be able to go out and stimulate economic development through financial literacy. But we need to spend the next 30 to 45 days, essentially through the end of September, of getting as many educators on board, trained, and certified as possible so we have a good application. But again, that's I don't say long-term, that's phase two. That's where we're going with it. We'll all benefit from that, but that's not in place now. So right now, number one is number one, but eventually what we'd like to do is to get grant funding for that. And we can accomplish that through this model, but we need to have our footprint. We need to have counties covered. Right now, we hardly have any counties covered because we just rolled this out. Okay, thank you, Steve, for that. All right, so yes, a few of you have already registered for in-person training, but you want to pivot to online. That is not a problem, and I'll make note, Mr. Franco, to take care of that for you. It is fine if you're originally planning to come in next Friday, but you'd rather do it online. A couple of you have already switched over, and that's fine. You don't hurt our feelings at all. So I'll take care of that after the webinar, Mr. Franco. All right, and so then in terms of funding, Mr. Franco has clients asking, and so the funding that clients receive could be term loans, they could be revolving, they could be SBA, non-SBA. You know, we had a flyer that we went through, and I guess I could add it back on here. It was the first tranche financing flyer. But with that being said, you know, we're going to work on a capital raise that meets what the client wants, and we don't get a power of attorney. We don't pretend to be them, so they're not going to get any type of funding that they don't want. So, Mr. Franco, you don't have to worry about that. The client's in control of the funding that they receive. Misty asked if Dallas County, Texas is open. It is as of this time, and that would be a great opportunity, Misty. So just let us know which county you want. Steve says he's got it. Misty asked about Zoom and the pandemic. I'm not sure what you're saying. As an educator, Misty, you can teach this in person or online. And now the Train the Trainer is available online with the last in person on the 27th. So yes, you can teach the curriculum in person or online. This I taught once a month in person, but it doesn't take much to change it to work with key influencers and teach it online. And so Samuel, I guess you're asking, when will the Train the Trainer training be available online? And it'll be available by the end of the month. So we have the last in-person class on Friday, August 27th. And by the end of the month, we'll have the online version. But it's important that you register now, because if you don't register now, you may not have your county available. We need leadership in each county to build out this grant application. So that's why we're kind of hurrying you. If you're interested, please reserve your county, lock it down, but that's going to help us as we go after the grant based upon having a national footprint of educators. Yep, Cook County and Will County is both open in Illinois. So Dion, you can pick whichever one you want. All right, so I think I've gone through all the questions. So I'll take one more stab at summarizing this. So big picture, we're going to grow based upon the white label model. That's working really well. We're adding a dramatic number of new white label partners, and there's no cost to be a white label partner. As a white label partner, you can focus on other ways of generating leads if you wish. However, I'm a big believer in leading through education. Well, through education, we have a standardized curriculum that has proven to be very successful. The outline is here. We've gone through that before, and it really provides a good foundation of knowledge for the typical small business owner. Once we've educated them, whether it be in person or online, whether it be 1 hour, 4 hours, 8 hours, whatever the curriculum may be, then we turn around and we drive them into the online funding proposal portal. You've not seen that because until you go through the training, you're not eligible for that. But it is essentially a slam dunk. Pretty much everyone, almost 100% of the people that will go through the funding proposal will end up enrolling. And so when they enroll, then that opens up the other revenue streams for you, which includes the refundable deposit, which you set the amount on, the performance fee, which you set the amount on, and if you're licensed, the key person policy, which you set up the policy and thus determine the commission. Okay, are there any other questions, anything that I did not cover today? Because what your next step is if you're already a white label partner, great. If you're not, decide if you want to be a white label partner or not, free and easy. Once you're a white label partner, then decide, do you want to be part of the team of educators? There's no cost to be an educator. If you want to be one, great. If you don't want to be one, it's fine with me. You don't have to really go out and teach. You could frankly control a county and send other people out to teach. So you can delegate, of course. But the bottom line is we need to have one designated educator, one leader in each county per state. So we have coverage. And so there's no competition. If you're controlling Clark County, Nevada, no one else is going to do in-person classes in Clark County, Nevada, for example. And so with that, then let us know if you want to go through the Train the Trainer curriculum, and just email us and we can get you set up. You're welcome to join us. We have a few seats remaining on Friday, August 27th in person, or you can do it online. But the key is to take action sooner than later. Otherwise, you could possibly lose the benefit of being able to operate in your community. Okay, are there any other questions, any other concerns, any other thoughts? Is this confusing? Does it make sense? In the big picture, the simplest sense, this is one way to go out and generate leads through education. It just so happens we have a specific model that we're rolling out for education that's standardized, and we need it to be standardized enough that we can create a national footprint of those of us that are out educating, so we can go after big grant dollars that can flood your bank account and pay you to do this. Now, in the absence of a grant, you still get paid to do it. It's just coming out of the attendee's pocket, which is not all bad. But if you look at the SBA's budget, they have an incredible amount of money that they spend every year, and this is in their wheelhouse. It used to be, and again, I worked for the SBA through the college, through the SBDC. It used to be the SBDCs did a lot of education, but it was several years ago, I'm going to say 5 to 7 years ago, they took out education as one of the metrics that the SBA took out education as one of the metrics that SBDCs were based upon. So a lot of SBDCs are really cut back on education. Some still do. Some are willing to partner with you in teaching this. But the bottom line is, we know that most small businesses need more capital to grow, and we need to be able to educate them. And this is a structured and a profitable way to do it. Any other questions before we end up? All right. Well, thank you all. I hope that you take action. We sent this packet out to everyone that is a white label partner currently. If you didn't receive it, I'd be surprised. Chances are it went into one of your filters or folders. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you back tomorrow morning. Have a good day. Bye.